We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets.
I have the body of a weak and feeble woman.
All men are created equal. Because I have a dream.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Hello everybody and welcome to Season 2 of ModsPod. Today with Alex we are going to be going to the GCSE History Medicine course, and I think we're going to be talking about the biggest or most important factor in medicine getting better, and you are going to argue today that individuals are.
Yes.
So what are the other factors that are involved in this course?
Well, not including individuals, you have science and technology, government, attitudes, and war.
Nice. All right, so we're going to focus on individuals, and there's a lot of it, right? So are we going to go right back to the beginning?
We're going to start right at the start of everything, pretty much.
Okay, so when's that then?
That would be in the medieval period with Galen.
Oh, okay. So Galen, he's a Roman doctor, and his ideas are in the Middle Ages. So
Yeah.
Galen's not, he's been dead for a while.
Yeah.
But his ideas, all right. So you're going to start by saying this guy was obviously so influential that his ideas carried on. So go on then.
Well, Galen's ideas were the first real proof or evidence of anything medical. His ideas were the first of what soon turned out to be many, but his ideas were like the foundation, like the starting point of every other doctor or every other individual in the course. So without Galen's ideas and without Galen taking it upon himself to like entertain the crowds that he had, but also explain and like educate other people about medicine, we would have nothing without him. So I think Galen really deserves some recognition, even though his ideas were wrong, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But his ideas and like influence was so important for the rest of the course that I just couldn't miss him out.
All right. No, I think if we're doing individuals, then he's got to be there, hasn't he? Because his ideas went on for 2,000 years, if not even more. So do you reckon we should just maybe tell people what his ideas were, what the main idea was that he introduced that carried on for so long?
Well, I feel like his main idea was probably, yes, they were all wrong, but I feel like the main one that he had was like just information about the body, full stop, just like everything. But the main one would probably have to be that men had less ribs than females, because men had to get rid of some of their ribs to make females. That was his idea.
So that's a bit religious as well then.
Yeah, that's a bit religious, but yes, it wasn't true, but still that was such a big idea that everyone believed for years on years. It just influenced the rest, and it influenced people to try and challenge that as well.
So that kind of proves in a way that even though he's wrong, the fact that he was an important individual, these wrong ideas carried on. So the body obviously is not like that. And maybe you'll talk in a minute about this jawbone idea or whatever. And I suppose when we get to Vesalius later on in this episode, who essentially challenges this Galen.
Yes, he does.
Just because Galen was wrong, it is the fact that Vesalius is going to be an individual who gets it right. So if we're thinking about medicine and important because his ideas carried on, are you suggesting then, as a bit of a thesis statement, that the reason why Galen was so important is because his ideas were around for so long?
Yeah.
Gives him this sort of credit.
Yeah,
All right.
because of his ideas being as like substantial as they are and lasting for as long as they did, it really like he set the tone for everyone else. So without Galen like and his confidence to do what he did, no one else would have challenged him. No one else would have done anything to do with medicine. They would have just thought, oh, we die, let's get over it. But Galen took it on himself to try and work out, about the body and try and discover more about medicine.
Yeah. So how did he find out about the body? What was his job and his day job?
Well, he like experimented on pigs and animals and stuff like that. Like he also discovered that the brain was controlled nerve, stuff like that. So he done that he had the pig and he stabbed the pig, not in the head, but in the backside to start off with. And then he stabbed it in the head, and the pig that was stabbed in the backside squealed and made noises, but the one stabbed in the head didn't. That just proved his idea that the brain controls the rest of the body.
And that's important, isn't it?
Yes.
And probably that is like the one thing he was right about.
Yeah.
So then that obviously changes all future thinking then. So I've got a feeling in this episode we're going to be saying a lot about individuals, then that their influence on later times. So, okay, he's done these things on pigs and stuff, and you mentioned the ribs. How would he know about inside the human body? How would he ever have access to that? What was his job?
His job, he was a gladiator doctor. So that means on a daily basis, he would see people like the inside of bodies. Whereas like if they got ripped opened by lions, he'd see inside. And if he got, I don't know, shot by like an arrow or something, then Galen would be able to see what that arrow caused and what damage that caused and the bleeding, everything like that, considering where it ended up in the body.
So he is definitely able to see. Maybe that's why he's got some credit in what he says, because he was an Emperor's doctor as well, wasn't he? He wasn't just a random. He was the Emperor's doctor. So I guess that gives him legitimacy, which is maybe why people listen to him so much. So, all right, the first real idea that he had in terms of medicine was this theory of the four humours, or the theory of the opposites. So that's kind of taken over a bit of Hippocrates' idea of the four humours. And then the opposites is Galen's kind of version of it. So what is the theory of the four humours?
Well, the theory of the four humours was that there was four main like liquids in our body, and that was yellow bile, black bile, phlegm, and blood. Them four humours, if they weren't balanced, then there would be like problems in the body, like illnesses or infection, stuff like that. And that was the theory of the four humours, which Galen took upon himself to really distribute into the country.
All right, so these things get imbalanced. So they were the blood, you say, black bile, yellow bile, phlegm.
Yes.
There's an obvious one there in blood, isn't there?
Yeah.
And I suppose he's seen a lot of the blood in his day job. It kind of makes a bit of sense, I suppose, doesn't it? And it's based on the seasons and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So this is not necessarily about the four humours. This is about him as an individual with this idea. Why do you think his idea of the four humours carried on into the Middle Ages?
I feel like it would have carried on into the Middle Ages because, well, there wasn't really anyone that was going to like go against it until Vesalius.
All right, so Vesalius is coming up in the Renaissance period after the Middle Ages, but let's go straight forward then to the Middle Ages, which is the first period in our medicine course, isn't it? Why did this theory of the four humours, and all of Galen's ideas really, carry on for so long? So the Roman Empire has been gone for a long time now, and yet here we are, 1250, Galen's ideas are the ones that everyone's believing in. Why is that?
Well, I think that's because the church had control, and the church were implementing these ideas on everyone, and anyone that tried to go against the church would be punished and would be thrown in prisons and stuff like that. So without Galen's ideas, though, the church wouldn't really, have any leg to stand on if it didn't make sense. So the church wouldn't be able to implement this without Galen's ideas making somewhat sense.
All right, so I'm going to be really annoying now and just suggest to you. So the church being a factor.
Yeah.
So Edexcel, our exam board, they call it institutions. So you got government or the church. The church being the Catholic Church, not like the church in the village. So the Catholic Church control everything. They control education. They control everything everyone believes. And like you say, they're not allowed to challenge it or you end up in prison. So they pick Galen because I suppose Galen's talking about the body was so perfect that it had to be something out of this worldy. Therefore, Alex, don't you think that the church as a factor is more important than Galen, because the church are the ones who are promoting Galen's ideas? They could have picked somebody else.
I think the fact that they picked Galen out of everyone, they picked Galen. I think Galen's work was just so brilliant and so abnormal in that time that the church picked it because, yes, it made sense to their religion. Yes, it made sense that there was something else in the world, something bigger that done this. But Galen's ideas, Galen himself took it upon himself to make them ideas and to come up with them ideas and do them experiments and everything like that. So if he hadn't done that, then the church wouldn't have anything to implement on anybody. There wouldn't be anything there for the church to, any leg to stand on, if that makes sense.
Right. So he was around before the church was a thing, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I suppose you could say. All right. So I still think in the back of my mind that the institution of the church was quite influential. However, you're right. It was Galen that they picked for whatever reason, the fact that he supported the church's teachings. So if Galen is so important, he's into the Middle Ages, are there any more individuals in the Middle Ages, or is the next real challenge to support your argument probably going to be Vesalius?
Yes, but for now, let's finish off the Middle Ages with Galen's books. They're in universities and teaching other doctors and other people in the country about his work and about medicine and the body itself. So without Galen taking it on himself to make them books, then no one else would know anything about medicine and it would just hit a standstill. It would never go forwards.
I think that's a killer point there for individuals, isn't it? Because despite all of that, the church is controlling everywhere. You're right. You're absolutely spot on with that. That it's the individual who is the one who's continuing to teach future doctors and physicians, not just England, but Europe, all these universities around Europe. All right. So I feel like the Middle Ages sort of just then happens, doesn't it? Not a lot of things change. It's kind of a bit herby, a bit pray to God. Religion obviously plays a huge part. And in another episode, you or somebody else, we might have a bit of an argument about how the church is more important. But for now, I feel like you've argued that pretty well. We'll go into the Renaissance period, and Renaissance means rebirth of ideas. So this moving away from the idea where you couldn't challenge the church. You just weren't allowed to. You mentioned earlier that you went to prison if you tried to challenge the church. So we're entering a period now where, and I suppose we could think about that other factor now of attitudes changing.
Yeah.
And again, I'll try not to be a bit of a nuisance in this episode by sort of pointing out to you, well, surely attitudes are more important than individuals. And we'll see how we cope with that later. But we are going to now pick up on this Vesalius. We mentioned him a few times already. Who is Vesalius?
Well, Vesalius, he was really, I say, the turning point in medicine, in history. Like, I think he's one of the most important in the history of medicine, full stop. And he was a grave robber.
Yeah.
Despite being small, as he was, his ideas were massive.
Nice.
And that really, really shows his importance as an individual. Being a grave robber and everything like that, he sees corpses, he sees bodies, he can look inside the body.
So what, he's robbing these graves to what? Research the body? Just going out of his way?
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Well, why not indeed? So they couldn't do that in the medieval period because the church would have you sent off to prison or something.
Yeah, but Vesalius had to do it undercover. He couldn't do it and tell everyone about, his grave robbing, strategies.
What, so he's like this dwarf who goes robbing bodies and he's dragging bodies bigger than him, back to his house?
Yeah, sounds like a great guy, doesn't he?
He is definitely one for a party, isn't he? So he's not just a grave robber, though, to be fair to him. He is like a physician. He educates. He works at university at Padua. At quite a young age, he became the lead, didn't he? Anatomist. So he's obviously got a bit of pedigree. I suppose it helps if you're robbing your bodies. Yeah. And where does he get them off the scaffold for the executioners as well?
Yeah, he hangs on the legs and swings, and then the legs fall off.
Until they rip off. God, this is a guy. This is definitely a dude.
Great guy.
So, all right. So he gets his bodies home and he boils them and stuff like that. Well, what does he do?
He dissects them. He looks inside of them. So if let's say he has a leg, he'll cut that leg open. Just a leg off the local hanging.
Yeah.
He'll just cut it open. Yeah. He'll just cut it open, have a little look, see how the bone's structured, see the veins, see everything like that in this leg, and then he'll just push the leg aside to go get an arm.
So what you're saying here, then, I think as we're going to go on, is this is progress in anatomy.
Yeah.
So the makeup of the body, structure of the body, and this is where we're going to start maybe challenging Galen a little bit.
Yeah.
So he has all these. He gets the whole skeleton, I think, doesn't he? He maps out every single bone in the body, and he notices what about the ribs?
That females and males do in fact have the same.
What a surprise there, right?
So
the jawbone as well. Galen said that we had 2 jawbones.
Yeah, made of 2 jawbones. When Vesalius then just proved it's only one.
Right.
One jawbone instead of 2.
So he starts challenging the great Galen. And I suppose this is where individuals then comes more important than the church, is that Vesalius has been able to, I guess, take over their power.
Yeah.
So he's got these bodies, this picture of these bodies. Who did the paintings? Who did these pictures for him?
It was famous artists.
All right, so like Leonardo da Vinci, people like that. So he's got these really incredibly detailed pictures of the body, as opposed to the old medieval 2D flat, stupid-looking things. Totally out of scale. So do you think then that he's taken advantage of the period that he's in with the
100%.
artists? So I think the artists have lost their jobs because of the Reformation.
Yeah.
So a lot of these people, they are now looking for work, so they go to the anatomists. And he picks the very best. And I guess he puts these things in a book.
Yes, he does.
So what's this book? What's that about?
The fabric of the human body.
Oh, it's a good name. Good name.
So
if you are a dwarf grey robbing guy, that's what you call your book, isn't it?
Definitely.
The fabric of the human body. And that's full of these pictures of really detailed
pictures, information, everything that anyone would really need to know about the body is in that book, and how it's structured. It's in there.
I feel like I like this guy already. I feel like about time, because Galen's been hanging on quite a while, hasn't he? And he was very wrong. So he's proven, how many mistakes roughly do you think Vesalius has proven?
I think it was 300.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot to get wrong. And you think that Galen was around for so long with 300 mistakes about the body. I wonder how these people in the Renaissance, when they realised that everything they've ever believed, I suppose what they'd say is, oh no, the body's changed since Galen's time, because then that would have to admit that they were wrong, wouldn't they? So then there's another little interesting invention. I'm gonna be a bit naughty now. The thing that's helped Vesalius get these pictures and these books around is the printing press.
It was, yes.
So that's a factor, and that will be technology. Could we say perhaps briefly that technology is more important than Vesalius, or
See, I think, yes, without the technology of the printing press, Vesalius would have struggled to get his books out there. But I still think his just sheer confidence to take on the church and like sheer, just initiative to go rob these graves. I don't know if it was his job or something like that, but
probably by the
it's his
sound of him,
hobby,
that's his
yeah.
Friday night, isn't it?
But going to rob these graves and then having the confidence to actually like explore the body has to be more important than the printing press, regardless of how hard it would have been for him to get the books out.
Yeah. I think that's a valid point. So the printing press has helped him get him around. And then, of course, these books have ended up in the universities,
Yes.
replacing Galen's books.
And
Maybe
that is
not
massive.
straight away, but now all future physicians are going to be learning from Vesalius's books, which is
Yes.
massive because the pictures in Vesalius's book, The Fabric of the Human Body, you calling it, are so detailed, so lifelike, that even that in itself is just better
Yeah.
than the books from the ancient times. So I think I'll give you that as an individual, he's already now starting to change and influence future doctors, but also change attitudes. So maybe in that sense, his work is the thing that's changing attitudes, rather than perhaps arguing that it's the attitudes that are welcoming for him to do this work. If he was, but then again, I'm going to be a bit horrible. Sorry. So if Vesalius was in the Middle Ages, would he have been able to do what he did?
I don't think he would have been able to
Because
do
of
what he done.
attitudes being
Yeah.
so strong and so traditional. So maybe in this period, the attitudes of the Renaissance is the reason why Vesalius was just lucky.
See, I think attitudes play a massive part in this period, but still the confidence to go against everything that he's probably ever known up to this point, everything about Jesus and God and stuff like that being the most important person. Whereas Vesalius has just gone out, proved everything the church was saying was wrong, everything Galen said was wrong, putting it out there. He's going against what everyone else knows, but having the courage and the bravery to actually do that.
I'll give you that, definitely. So even though people with attitudes were changing, it still needed someone to be brave, and push those boundaries. All right, so for me, I agree. If we're doing individuals as or the most important individual, I think Vesalius is important in the grand scheme of medicine, right up until today, really, probably. But he doesn't really find any cures, does he? There's no new treatments from Vesalius.
See, I don't think there was any need for new treatments. Of course, there's always need for new treatments, but at this time, I feel like just having the information about the body has to have been more important than having the treatments, because without the information in the body, no one else in the future could ever find any treatments because they're still stuck on Galen's old miscorrect or incorrect version of the body.
All right, so what I'm hearing from you is that your thesis, again, on this, if you're doing a little thesis statement, is that knowledge is more important than a new treatment, because you can build so much onto that.
Yeah.
So he does anatomy. We've nailed anatomy now, I think. That's clear. Galen's mistakes are all fixed. We now know how the body looks, where the organs are, all of that stuff. Possibly our next individual, and there's a few in this period who are quite important, is physiology. So physiology, how the body works. This is slightly different. We're going to talk about Harvey, who he figured out about how the body works in a living thing. So who's this William Harvey guy, our first English person?
Well, he was the person who discovered that the heart was a pump for all the blood. And he done this, funnily enough, by seeing an old Renaissance fire engine pumping water. And he thought to himself, wow, what if I can take this and build on it? And by him looking at this and building on it, he's discovered that the heart was a pump.
So that is an individual genius there, isn't he? He could have kept walking along and not thought anything of that. But the fact that he did, then he thought, I wonder if the heart does something similar. So then he's gone and done some other experiments. He's quite good at experiments, I think, Harvey, isn't he?
I think so, yeah.
So what's that one he does with the veins on the arms?
The veins pop. And when he saw that, he just realised that the heart was pumping more blood to that area because something was going on.
So what did Galen say about the blood?
He said that the blood was made in the liver, which is, I think we all know that. That's completely incorrect.
Well, it's one of his big mistakes, isn't it, I suppose?
Yeah.
And I suppose that's why this four humours idea where you bleed people. If he believed they were tanks of blood and you were essentially trying to balance the body, it made sense. But now it's really dangerous to bleed people. Knowing the heart is actually pushing blood around the body is probably why a lot of people died.
Yeah.
By being bled, the most common treatment in this period. I know you've said that treatments aren't that important. This is more about the knowledge that then allows future treatments to be made. But this discovery is quite good. That's going to start changing attitudes as well, isn't it?
Yes.
So another individual that's having a huge impact on what people thought at the time. This Harvey guy, does he write books as well, maybe?
He does, yes.
Where does his, so I guess you've now got Harvey's books and Vesalius' book,
yeah.
Galen's done.
He has to be surely out now.
So these two individuals have changed our attitudes. They're saying, let's just clarify before we move on to the third individual in this period, how the body works, where everything is. Vesalius proves Galen wrong, sorry. And Harvey, the physiology, how the body works. He does his experiments on animals. He does do it on cold-blooded animals and stuff, doesn't he? But there is things he's done with dogs where he slit their throat and he's sort of proven, hasn't he?
Yeah.
It was a bit of a weirdo, the Harvey, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah, he don't really go around slitting dogs' throats, do you? But you know.
I think he used to sit on the roofs in winter and have his feet in cold buckets, and I think maybe spank the odd lady coming out of the pubs and stuff. I think he was a bit of a weirdo, but I suppose so's Vesalius, robbing bodies from the grave. Maybe to be an individual genius, you have to be a little bit tapped. What about his day job as well? So he's a doctor. He's a doctor to, this is Harvey, to the king.
Yes.
And the English Civil War is going on at this point. So again, just to throw in another factor to you, because you're arguing really well that individuals are important, but war. Harvey is a surgeon in the Civil War, and he sees these bodies, doesn't he, opened up with the new weapons, muskets, and so he's getting real knowledge of the body, a little bit like Galen. Well, could we say possibly that without the war, Harvey's ideas might not have been so well advanced?
Well, without the war, obviously he wouldn't have had the insight that he did have through the war. But without that, I'm sure he would have been fine as well. I'm sure he would have been able to experiment, do what Vesalius did, maybe not rob bodies, but like maybe experiment on actual humans. But just being in the war himself and having like the courage to be on the battlefront, getting all these bodies, he's something else.
Yeah, he definitely is something else. And isn't that right? I think I know a story where somebody got injured in the war and just had a bit of skin over his sort of heart, and you could see the heart beating, and that's sort of where he put all these ideas together.
Yes.
So that's war again. I'm having that one, all right? War's helping, but he still needs to do something with it. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
All right. So he's a weirdo. He takes these bodies on the battlefield during the Civil War when he's cold and puts bodies over him to make him warm. I'm definitely convinced here that anyone who's a little bit random is able to do some incredible things. So, all right, I'll give you that. Two really important advances in medicine now, isn't it? And we're definitely moving away from the Middle Ages. And now we can start moving away from the four humours, which eventually we will. So one more individual in this Renaissance period who is, in my opinion, quite boring, but you're going to say probably quite important, Thomas Sydenham.
Yes, important. They're all important if we're being honest.
Well, yeah, the whole episode is about individuals.
Yeah, how important they are. But Sydenham, he is a little bit boring, as you said, but he still had a big impact on medicine in like itself. He discovered that all illnesses had their own treatments, and that is just a major breakthrough.
Well, was it the idea that all illnesses have their own causes, therefore they must have their own treatments?
Yeah.
Which is like a proper move away from four humours, isn't it? Or God, or miasma, which were the three big things. Perhaps not at the time, but going forward, and he's going to be proven right, isn't he, later on with Robert Koch when he discovers bacteria. But for years, this Sydenham character is just beginning to change attitudes. And if you think that every illness has its own cause, therefore must have its own treatment, what is he essentially inspiring other doctors to do?
He's inspiring other doctors to go actually look.
And find them.
Yeah, find them.
Yeah.
Because if they think there's going to be treatments and there's going to be causes, they're going to go look. Curiosity is going to take the best of them. Whereas before, they wouldn't because they were scared to.
Yeah.
But now they can. That could also be to do with the demolition of the church and the church not having all that power.
Yeah.
But then without Sydenham, they're not going to go look because they're going to think, oh, there's nothing there. Let's just leave it how it was.
Yeah. He's also a little bit radical in his ideas about how we learn. So obviously in the years up till now, even in the Renaissance, even with Vesalius and Harvey, perhaps to an extent, but before, the traditional ideas is you learn from university, from books.
Yes.
Sydenham is not really too keen on the books, even though he writes books. He's got his book, Medical Observations, that he puts in the university as well. So now we've got his books, Vesalius' books, and Harvey's books. What's his big idea that's kind of random and radical in terms of doctors learn, and where do they go? What does he encourage people to do?
He encouraged them to go to the bedsides and actually observe the patients, because if before they weren't observing the patients, so they wouldn't know what's going on with them. All they'd know is occasional or a couple symptoms. But if they're actually observing them and actually going to the bedsides, they'll know what's happening pretty much 24/7 with this patient. So they can observe how they're changing or how they're getting better. They can just observe.
And they write everything down.
Yes.
Didn't he have a bit of a nickname? See, the English Hippocrates.
That was, yes.
Because Hippocrates, the father of modern medicine, was all about observing the patient, wasn't he? Back in ancient Greece, whereas Sydenham's like, no, get down there. New doctors, go and speak to the patient, learn from them, not just the books.
Yeah.
And that's an attitude change, isn't it, as well? So therefore, we could argue in terms of you winning your argument today in this episode that attitudes are important, but not as important because this individual, by doing what he did, clearly undermines attitudes or takes advantage perhaps of the attitudes available at the time. All right, so that is really good so far. We've got our individuals now. As we then approach the next period in our medicine course, the industrial period, it's going to be a busy part of the episode because there are many individuals, aren't there?
Yes.
All right, and this is one where we could have a little bit of fun by we start arguing or debating who's the most important individual. But this episode is just arguing for the fact that individuals generally, but there are a few, aren't there? Shall we get started then?
Quite a few, yes, we should. And as we get into the industrial period, the first one we have is Jenner. And Jenner, he's quite important, you know, he really like found and discovered a lot that really helped the production and like development of medicine. He discovered the vaccine for smallpox. And the way he done it was like quite fascinating to me, if I'm honest. Like, it really shows his cleverness and his intriguiness, if that's a word.
Good. I think you just made it up, but it's a good work. We'll have that intriguiness.
It's like his thinking to really look
his
into
determination to find the answer. So before we go into Jenner's work, this is one of those things really important in this medicine course, isn't it? It's to try and establish what's more important, saving lives, gaining knowledge, or finding a treatment.
Yeah.
So this vaccination that you're talking about, probably is the most important thing, isn't it? Because if you can prevent people from getting sick in the first place, then surely this discovery is going to just be everything. So this Jenner guy has found a vaccine for smallpox, you say, which is one of the biggest killers of the time.
Yeah, it was a massive killer. It killed 10% of England.
Wow.
It's a lot.
Yeah, that's a big old killer. So finding this vaccine then, so you're saying Jenner could be responsible for saving thousands, millions of lives?
A lot of lives.
How did he do it? What happened?
Well, so he noticed that the milkmaids, they wouldn't get smallpox. Instead, they would get something called cowpox on their hands, which was like in the family of smallpox.
Okay.
But when they got cowpox, they then wouldn't get smallpox. So he decided to take some of the like pus from one of the blisters on one of the milkmaids and inject it into a little boy. And after a few days, Jenner had completely exposed the boy to smallpox and he was immune.
All right. So you gave him the cowpox and then maybe got a bit sick for a little while, but then he recovered. And the theory is, I think is what you're saying, that because the body's been exposed to this weaker version, this smaller version or whatever of this cowpox, that when it gets smallpox, it's not going to get full smallpox, which is why the milkmaids, they never seem to have it.
Yeah.
Just that alone, just that thought process from Jenner is like genius, isn't it? So that's where we are. Little James, the little boy he's called.
Little James.
James Phipps, 8 years old. You think is going to get now a week or two later after he recovers full-blown smallpox.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a risk, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's the risk that Jenner's willing to take because he wants to try and discover vaccine.
It's not Jenner's kid though, is it? Is it worth it? Is it worth risking the life of a child to only possibly save the lives of millions?
I think so, yeah. Because if you're like, even have the smallest chance of saving, 10% of the country have died from this. I think the smallest chance of saving that, maybe even decreasing that to maybe 2%, just any decrease, I think that's very much worth it.
Yeah. Oh, this poor kid.
Yeah.
So anyway, what happened?
So he was immune to this. He was immune to smallpox. Jenner saw this, thought about it, and thought he couldn't explain it. He just...
So he's had the idea of why the milkmaids didn't get smallpox, and he's done this experiment, which has worked.
Yeah.
But he can't explain it.
Which is very detrimental for Jenner.
Oh, so that's why we're saying that Jenner probably isn't the most important individual.
Not the most important.
Even though he's come up with the idea of the vaccine, he can't explain it.
He's important, but I wouldn't say he's the most important, mainly because he can't explain it.
Has this discovery of Jenner linked to any other factor? I'm thinking of government here. If the government helped with this in any way?
I mean, I think it's more Jenner himself, but there was a little like hint of help from the government, gave him some funds, stuff like that. But still, without Jenner's like just intuition, he wouldn't have.
Oh, definitely. I'll give Jenner all the credit for that. His idea, he looked at those milkmaids and he thought, I wonder. And then any good scientist or whatever has gone away and done that. So the government gave them some money to help fund it and have like a vaccine campaign.
Yeah, they were like, they helped him try and develop this, but obviously Jenner didn't really know how to. So
it was about 30 grand, I think, wasn't it,
Yeah,
that the
it was.
government gave him, which in those days is probably a lot of money.
yeah,
And then they made it compulsory, didn't they? I think there was some opposition to that because essentially what we're trying to do here is get people to put smallpox into
yeah,
themselves. And at the time, this is one of the biggest killers, so people were understandably scared.
yeah,
And then they make it compulsory. I'm sure that went down well, especially if you think about some of the anti-vaxxers today.
Yeah.
They're passionate, aren't they? That they don't think the government should be forcing people to put things into their bodies. So that's interesting that happened hundreds of years ago as well, eh?
yeah. It's like times really haven't changed if you think
No,
about it.
they haven't. But the government in this case, they felt like they needed to make it compulsory.
They needed to step in,
Okay.
but without Jenner, obviously they wouldn't have had nothing to
No,
step in.
absolutely, I'll give you that one. That Jenner, as the individual, has then made the government have to make this choice. So we found the vaccine. We can't explain it, but at least there's some future to build on this, I suppose.
Yeah,
All right. So anything else about Jenner, or are we going to move on to the next individual?
I think we should move on.
All right, let's do this. Who's the
go.
next one then?
To Simpson,
Oh, James Simpson.
he discovered chloroform.
He's Scottish. He's the best, obviously.
Yeah, of course he is. And chloroform, what he discovered, it just dealt with pain, which at that time in surgery was such a massive, like, detrimental factor for surgery.
Well, people didn't want it, did they?
Yeah, people didn't want to go have surgery because they were scared of the pain.
So what's this? Some of these stories that people like ended up carrying body parts. I see those smirking there. What's the body part people are carrying around in a wheelbarrow?
It was the bollocks.
Oh, it's testicle.
Yeah, it's
For the listeners out there.
Yeah, for the younger years.
So they were so scared to go for surgery, they ended up like getting such a
Yeah.
bad state that he's like wheeling his testicle around,
Mhm.
and other things like tumors and stuff that's so
Yeah.
big. So then we get to this idea that before it's brutal, barbaric. Who does the surgery before?
It used to be the barber surgeons, and they really were ruthless with it. They don't really care about the patient.
Yeah. So what people saw them as like butchers, I guess.
Yeah.
So what kind of operations did they do?
They don't like basic amputations, so like legs coming off, arms coming off. They still caused quite a few fatalities and quite a few deaths from the
sure.
basic surgeries, but you know.
Blood loss as well, probably.
Yeah.
So you went for your haircut and you ended up getting a limb lobbed off
Yeah.
as well. So that's why people didn't go. That's the point of this bit. So you're saying that James Simpson with his chloroform is going to mean what?
He's going to just revolutionize the idea of surgery. He's going to completely change it. Everyone's not going to be scared for surgeries anymore.
All right.
They're going to want to go, and they're not going to be wheeling
So
their
what is the discovery? What is the chloroform thing?
Well, chloroform, it just deals with pain. And it was, I think, the third attempt of trying to deal with pain ahead of laughing.
So like an anesthetic.
Yeah, like trying to stop the patient from like screaming and, you know, jumping about, like twitching, all of that while doing surgery to like really reduce the risk of mistakes, if that makes sense. Trying to keep it as clean and smooth as possible.
So thanks to James Simpson, I guess what we say, we can do far more complex operations now, can't we? So if the patient's unconscious for ages.
Yeah.
All right. So how does he discover this thing? How does a guy go about discovering chloroform?
It's a very good question.
I see a smirk on your face again here.
It was a party. Let's say a very safe party.
All right.
They
With
should
wealthy
say that.
people who do things that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got some of his friends to, you know, maybe have a little sniff at it. But, you know, that's fine. You know,
Oh,
very safe.
so they're having a bit of a drug party with
You
some
could
of
say,
these
yeah.
some of these things, and what, they spilled it or something and knocked them all out.
Yeah, knocked them all out and they were asleep. Safe, remember.
All right. So when we're looking at the kind of surgery we can do today, thanks to anesthetics, we've really got to give him the credit for that.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely, there's no doubt about that. I don't think for Simpson he gets the credit for that one. So what were any problems with this chloroform, or was it just perfect and wonderful?
I mean, there was one major problem, and that was the dosage.
Oh, right.
People didn't really understand how much to give, and too much of it will obviously kill you, as most things will nowadays. But like too much of it, and you're in a pretty bad spot. But too little wouldn't last long enough for the surgery, so they really had to find something.
Well, you woke up halfway through.
Yeah, you woke
Oh,
up halfway through your leg hanging off. You know.
Yeah,
You're
and then
waking
cutting
up.
away at you. Oh no, there's
Yeah.
no way.
So what he did is he invented something called the chloroform inhaler, which like measured the dosage and just put the right amount.
So that was John Snow who
Yeah,
invented
that
that,
was
wasn't
John
it? So the problem was the dosage, and John Snow maybe you'll talk about John Snow in a minute.
Yeah.
The cholera Broad Street pump fame. He went ahead and made this inhaler that sort of released fumes rather than sniffing.
Yes.
Oh, so he's going to get credit for that too. But okay, problem solved. Is there any sort of thing about this chloroform that like there was opposition from some of the people, like maybe like religious people?
Yeah.
What did they say about like pain of a woman giving birth or something?
They said it was like payback for the sins that they did.
Yeah, so like we had to be in pain to give birth
Yeah.
because that was a reminder of life coming from death and Jesus being crucified. That's random, isn't it? It's like crazy.
Not touch on that.
All right, so that's what these people. Obviously, Queen Victoria used the stuff and
Yes.
loved it, didn't she?
That's why it had such a big, like, strong reputation, because the Queen's used it. The Queen's like approved it.
Yeah.
Everyone else can be like,
Listen, if it's good enough for the Queen,
yeah,
it's good enough for us, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that solved this big problem of surgery, and the barber surgeons they're done changed attitudes towards surgery, perhaps.
Yeah.
But didn't that lead to this thing like called the Black Period of Surgery?
It did, yes.
So what's that?
That's where a lot of infections and a lot of blood loss killed a lot of patients.
So I guess is that because they were unconscious for longer?
Yeah, they were
So
unconscious
we
for
haven't
longer.
discovered germs yet by this point. Is that right?
Not yet, no.
So in a minute, you're going to talk about, I guess, the germ theory.
100%.
Well, obviously, we know that's really important.
Yeah.
So this Black Period of Surgery has led to all these people dying because they were unconscious for too long. More complex operations, that's a bonus.
Yeah.
But the germs that we didn't know about now are getting into the bodies.
Yeah.
So what was the solution to that? Or is there another individual perhaps that played a part in that?
There is another individual. That's further along though. I think we'll talk about that later.
You're going to do Lister later.
Yes.
You're going to leave us hanging.
Of course.
Literally, the Lister Blister man, you're going to leave us hanging. All right, take us on your journey then. This is your episode. So what individual next?
I think next we're going to do Jon Snow.
Oh, okay.
Just
That's fine.
about him. Jon Snow next.
Jon Snow. You know nothing, Jon Snow. Not Game of Thrones, Jon Snow.
No. Different Jon Snow.
That's never been funny. Don't even know why I said it. Anyway, carry on.
So Jon Snow, he discovered cholera. Or like didn't discover cholera, discovered the cure for cholera.
Oh, the cause of cholera.
Yeah, cause. And it was so massive. Like cholera killed so many people. It killed 52,750 people.
In like one go.
year.
This was like a regular epidemics of this thing.
Yeah.
I suppose it could say this is like the Black Death of
Yeah.
their period, wasn't it, in the 1800s?
Mhm.
So Jon Snow is going to find out what causes it.
Yeah, he completely
This is interesting.
changed everything. Completely changed attitudes as well.
Yeah.
Speaking of attitudes, this cholera really only affected the poor, which means the government didn't care. And that's another factor. The government didn't care. The laissez-faire attitude that they had, Jon Snow abolished that.
So Jon Snow has put some pressure on the government to get rid of that. So
100%.
he's important for that.
Yeah,
This laissez-faire attitude, what they're sort of saying, like, it's not their problem.
yeah, they don't really care.
Not that they don't care, no, but they like, you look after yourself.
Yeah.
So cholera, this big massive killer, you reckon Jon Snow, this random doctor in London, in Soho, is just going to figure out what the cause is? What do they think was the cause before this then?
Miasma,
Still miasma from the Middle Ages?
of course, it always.
Oh, we're like
happened.
in the 1850s and we're still thinking about miasma.
Yes.
All right, so Jon Snow, what's his sort of theory? What's he thinking about when he thinks, well, it can't be miasma because...
He thought it can't be miasma because it didn't affect the lungs. It affected a different part of the body. I think it affected the stomach.
The guts, yeah?
Yeah, the guts.
Actually, stop a minute. That's similar to Jenna's like logic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like it can't be the lungs because it made you sick and diarrhea and all that stuff. Otherwise, you'd be struggling to breathe. Sometimes the most simple things in the world,
I know.
are just a bit of logic.
Just thinking about it, and yeah.
Yeah, good old Jon Snow.
See, Jon Snow, he suggested it was the water because it really affected this one area near Soho, near this one water pump. So he looked at this pump, he thought, it has to be this. So what he done was, with a lot of pressure on the government, he convinced them to take the water pump, like the pump to get the water out, off of it, so that they couldn't get water from that area.
So what's his evidence? Like, I don't understand. What's he said? He's gone to the council and said, I think it's this because...
He done a map, basically.
Right. Of what?
The
Of the area?
Yeah, around the pump. And he realised that the people close to it, there was a lot of infections there. And then further away, there was this one lady, pretty far away, she got infected. But
What? So she ordered water from this area?
yeah, she did.
What, the
Ordered her
taste of it?
son. Yeah, she liked the taste of it. That's kind of disgusting.
What, her son got it for her, were you about to say?
Yeah.
So she preferred the taste of this water from this area of Soho, full of like poo and
Yeah,
stuff.
poo and wee. Like to take
Ah,
cholera.
Maybe it's tangy.
Different taste.
Maybe it's got a unique taste.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a bit sad though, isn't it? That technically
Yeah.
their sons have killed her by taking this water. So
It's quite sad.
all these people died. They seem to die, according to Jon Snow's little map, around this pump.
Except for one area, and that was the pub. Because the pub were drinking beer and obviously alcohol and stuff like that. And
To make beer, you've got to boil it, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly. They were boiling water and stuff like that. So the cholera was getting killed and wasn't in that.
See, that's clever as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just to sort of look at that, the brewery, and think, well, why aren't they dying, but everyone else is? These people are, honestly, again, it's simple, but really important.
To think of that, you have to be some sort of genius.
So he's noticed all these deaths seem to be around this pump, this Broad Street
Yeah.
pump in Soho. So now he took that to the government, the council, and said, look, I think, and then what did they do?
Basically looked into it.
They took the handle off?
Took the handle off. Yes.
Eventually. I think he had to
Yeah.
beg them, didn't he?
After a while, took the handle off.
Yeah, and then what happened to the cholera deaths?
plummeted, completely decreased by
So
so much.
What I'm hearing here is that they have believed in miasma for like hundreds of years. And
Yeah.
now this guy is essentially saying that miasma is not a thing.
Mhm.
Well, that is definitely credit, isn't it?
Yeah,
That should put
100%.
this individual quite high up,
He's-
because we're getting rid of hundreds and thousands of years of medical ideas.
Yeah.
It's just crazy that this lasted this long. I know we talked about this earlier in this episode about Galen and his ideas carrying on.
Yeah.
So Jon Snow is changing attitudes, the laissez-faire attitude, you're saying?
And that's completely massive. Like, that's honestly so important. For
So
the future.
Jon Snow's work is local, really. This discovery is one pump and one bit of Soho, but the principle of the idea is that it's poor people living in these dirty, filthy conditions. And we know there's some individuals that aren't particularly on our course, but a guy called Chadwick, he's gone around the slums, hasn't he? And he's written reports to the government saying, look, poor people are dying because these illnesses affect them.
Yeah.
All of that added together. So we'll give Jon Snow the credit of their putting pressure on the government.
Yeah.
So this was 1854 and the Public Health Act was 1875. So there's a little bit of time to go before people maybe take Jon Snow's work, because he's just had the theory, hasn't he? But how does that affect scale, I guess? Maybe it'd be his problem because his was only Soho. But I'll definitely agree with you. He can have the credit of changing this laissez-faire attitude. I know his little bit about the pump as well, the chloroform inhaler. So he is definitely helping out everywhere. Right, Jon Snow's up there.
Yes.
I don't know if he's number one, but he's up there.
He's up there, yeah.
All right, all about this attitudes. So what's next then after Jon Snow?
Well, the next individual we have to talk about is Florence Nightingale.
Let's get some strong women in this story.
I mean, Florence Nightingale is very well known, I think. People have probably heard of her, no matter what you're listening to.
I think you're right.
Well, she was very wealthy, let's just say that. So she had power, and she also trained as a nurse. Yeah, after convincing her parents, she trained as a nurse, much like what they didn't want her to do. She trained as a nurse, and she really took it upon herself to like look into all of this. And she became like superintendent of all the of the King's College Hospital in London. She became like important
in this period for a woman as well.
Yeah,
I mean, it helps that you've got influence and a bit of money and stuff.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's still an achievement, isn't it?
That's a massive.
So
achievement.
that, I suppose, makes what she says have a bit more
legitimacy.
Yeah, legitimacy. Yeah, definitely.
She also focused on improving hospitals at home, which means it wasn't just the hospitals for the rich that she was improving hospitals at home, like teaching women how to properly care, because women have been caring for ages. Like, they're one of the main carers.
They've always been like, because people are poor.
Yeah.
You had the old woman in the village or in the family.
Yeah.
So where did she get these ideas from? What did she do to get ideas about this hygiene, I guess you're going to talk about?
Yeah, the hygiene that she brought into it. She went to war.
Oh, of course you do.
She went to war.
Like when you're a rich, wealthy woman with nothing else to do, you go after war.
That is another thing she had to convince her parents about. Her parents were strict, as they always are. Rich people's parents.
Well, they didn't want her to be a nurse, did they? They thought that was a common thing.
It was like frowned upon.
Yeah, nurses were generally seen as like uncouth.
Yeah.
A bit lechy, a bit sort of leery. And they were like, no, Florence, that's not for you. But she was determined.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was that voice. So she saw like this spirit, didn't she? This spiritual awakening one day. Florence, you must go and save the world.
I believe that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Joan of Arc was the same. Why would you not believe a spirit that comes to you in the street?
Yeah.
So she went off to this war, the Crimea, and what did she see when she got there?
How disgusting it was. There was tools everywhere. There was just like the smell inside of the like makeshift hospitals they had was disgusting. They had like the windows open, letting all the other bad smells in, the doors open.
Poo and stick and vomit everywhere. And body parts everywhere.
Dirty bed sheets, dirty dresses for the nurses that were already there. It was just disgusting.
If any nurses at all, really. I think the blokes weren't too happy with the women being there, were they? So she rocks up with her merry band of nurses and immediately starts what?
She immediately starts just like criticising it all. She had some demands that she needed. She wanted these demands fulfilled. She demanded 300 scrubbing brushes to get rid of any dirt.
Let's go, Flo.
To like get rid of anything, make it clean. And she insists that all of the nurses are to be organised and respected so they can treat the soldiers effectively. And there was 2,000 soldiers there just waiting to be treated. So she wanted organisation.
Sorry to interrupt. Are you telling me that these guys were just like lying on the floor and all this stuff?
Yeah, literally lying on the floor.
So she's come along and said, like, basic, let's clean up the joint.
Yeah.
Oh.
You'd think anyone would think of that.
So did that help with death rates or anything?
Oh yeah, 100%. The death rates dropped from 40% to 2%.
Wow.
That is a massive decrease in the war.
She's saving lives here. When we talk about that impact again of individuals, 40 to 2%.
I know, that's a lot. That's 38%.
So she's rocked up what? So you're saying cleaned up bed sheets, tucked the bed sheets in, mopped the floors, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So is it right? I think there might be a little fact here that they wouldn't give her the stuff she needed, so she bought it herself with her own money.
I think so, yeah.
What a ledge. What an absolute ledge.
Taking it on herself. To do
Oh,
all of that.
absolutely. While we're here, I'm just going to throw in a little bit, just for the sake of fairness, to Mary Seacole.
Yes.
She was another lady who went off to this Crimea of her own accord and dragged men off the battlefields and stuff as well. She doesn't quite get the same sort of
recognition
as Florence, but in this little episode we'll throw her in as well, all right?
Yeah, why not?
So she's there. So she comes home, Florence. She's learnt all this brilliant stuff, and then more importantly for our medicine course, really, is she goes to the government, her friends in high places, you know, what?
Because she's posh.
When she's posh and she has influence and she knows these important people, and she comes up with these ideas about improving hospitals here.
Yes.
So what does she do in these hospitals here?
She like orders it to be more like just clean. She's generally just clean it.
So
clean
hygiene's the name of the game.
Yes.
So what she designs these hospitals.
Yeah.
She's gone to the drawing board. She's gone, I think we should do this. This is what we need. What does our hospital look like?
The hospital, it's not cramped. That's the main thing, not cramped. And there's windows as well.
Big open windows.
Big open windows. They can be open and closed as well.
So what's that for?
That's to like let in fresh air.
So ventilation.
It's just not just stinking.
So does that mean she believes in miasma?
I think she does, yeah.
We're still hanging on to this miasma thing a little bit, but at least she's kind of right. He doesn't know why she's right, but we want some ventilation. So are all these poor people in this hospital all stuck together in like the same place, or
she invents something called wards?
Wards.
So like
another simple thing.
Yeah, another simple thing. You know, anyone could think of that, but no.
But they didn't.
Like different areas for the different illnesses. Like if someone had, I don't know, some sickness or some illness bug, and they would go in this one. If someone was pregnant, they'd go in this one. If someone with a open wound would go into this one. Like just differentiation to really stop the spread, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So stop infections.
Yeah.
That's probably a big deal. How does she keep this new place clean? What little simple things does she do to keep this place clean?
She just hires people. The people that are there clean.
The new nurses.
Yeah, the new nurses.
Trains them how to clean, and they have to go around regularly cleaning regularly. So what, like the materials on the walls and floors, what are they?
They're like
tiles. That's easy to keep clean.
Yeah.
Oh, simple, isn't it? Easy floor tiles. So she's got this brilliant new hospital design. She's proven that it works, and obviously her impact then is that hygiene has gone through the roof.
Yes.
Still believes a bit of miasma though. Everyone does until, of course, we get to Louis Pasteur.
Yes.
So would you say, before we do move on from Flo, that you think Florence, is she right up there, or is she just a bit important?
She's, I say, around the middle to high area.
All right. So her sort of legacy, if you like, is nursing is now a profession, a respected profession, a respected career. Her teaching future nurses and this notes on nursing that she wrote are essentially the basis of university education today for nurses. And of course, hospital design, we have clean spray. Every hospital is like super clean. So that's her legacy.
Yeah.
All right. So
she's really
on legacy.
Her ideas have really carried on to the modern period.
All right. So, all right then. Florence is up there, but not up there.
Let's move on.
Let's go.
We're going to talk about Koch and Pasteur together.
All right. Now. Robert Koch and Louis Pasteur.
Yes, them too.
Crack on.
So they didn't work together. If anything, they worked against each other. There was a war going on at that time, and the war really just fueled these two's desire.
Is that the Franco-Prussian War?
That is the
France versus Germany. Okay.
Yes, and this war fueled their desire to outprove each other, to like outdo each other, do one better than the other.
Okay.
You know, so it all started with Pasteur and his germ theory.
So I think you're going to tell me now, or tell our listeners now, of the most important breakthrough in medicine.
Yes, the most important.
I'm feeling it. I'm seeing your face. I'm seeing Louis Pasteur is the man. Go.
So he invented the germ theory, and this together, actually, they were against the theory of spontaneous generation.
Okay, so spontaneous generation, that's posh.
Well, the theory of spontaneous generation is the theory that the rotting causes the germs. So like the rotting would like make germs against the idea, or like in opposition to the idea.
So the rotting causes the germs?
Yeah, the rotting causes the germs.
Well, that is wrong, isn't it?
Yeah, instead of the germs causing the rotting.
So they spontaneously just arrive when the conditions are right?
Whenever they want, you know?
I don't know if that...
I don't
know if miasma's probably better than that, isn't it?
I think they're...
So he's going to come along and get rid of this silly idea of this spontaneous generation.
Disproves it.
So the germs the rotting, so food left out, bodies
Yeah.
left out, that leads to germs growing or appearing.
Yeah, just randomly appearing.
So what's this germ theory then?
So the germ theory is that the germs cause the rotting instead of the rotting causing the germs. So a complete juxtaposition to the spontaneous
What's
generation
like
theory.
germs are always there?
Yeah, germs are always there. It's just in the air, always there.
Okay. So could that be linked to the black period of surgery then?
Yeah, 100%.
So that thing you were talking about earlier with these bodies out on the table, the germs that are already there, but of
gonna
course
get into the
they're not
bodies.
looking for that because they don't believe that, do they?
Yeah, they're
Wow.
not looking.
So all these people died because they didn't know about this germ theory.
And this is why Koch and Pasteur had such a revolutionizing idea.
Oh my God, okay. I'm feeling it. So this germ theory then is going to change the world.
Yeah, change the world and the future of the world as well.
So germs are everywhere and that causes all the problems.
And he done an experiment to prove this. He had a flask of liquid, I think it was water, and he had a flask of water. So he just left it out. And after some time, the water got like moldy, infected, had some stuff growing inside of it. So he chucked that away. Yeah. Then he got another flask of water, but this time he had like a little tube on top of it that had a kink in it, a little bend. So that way the germs would fall onto that little kink and it wouldn't go into the water. And after the same period of time which he left the other one, the water was not infected, had nothing growing in it, it was fine.
So he's essentially proven that germs couldn't get into the kink.
Germs that were falling from the sky couldn't
that are in the air.
Yeah.
And then what do you do? Like shake it or something?
Yeah, he shook it. And then the water, after some time, again, went infected, got people got stuff going inside of it, just infections inside of it.
Is there something else he did? I'm just thinking of like the milk in your fridge and stuff. Like pasteurization. Is that to do with Louis Pasteur? Like if you boil?
Yeah.
So he had this dirty water
and he boiled
it and cleaned it.
Yeah.
So that's why we know, don't we, that if you boil water, it kills. So he's very important. And that's a bit of a side issue, that one, isn't it? All right. So he's proved to the world that the germ theory is the reason why we get sick.
Yes.
But I suppose a lot of people weren't really buying that if they've believed in miasma forever.
Yeah, especially not the doctors and the surgeons that were already existing, because that would go against everything they've ever.
I would sort of blame them for everyone's death, wouldn't it? They don't want to accept that, do they?
Yeah, the deaths would be on their shoulders, and if I was them as well, I wouldn't take that.
Yeah, especially if that's everything you've ever believed.
Yeah.
Also, he's doing a lot of his work on liquids, isn't he?
Yeah.
And like people are probably thinking to themselves, nothing this bit, like germs can't even see them. They can't get into our body, surely.
Yeah, surely not.
So he's faced a bit of opposition.
Of course he has.
All right. So, okay, I can't think of any. So everything in my mind now is coming back to this germ theory can explain everything.
Literally
Nightingale,
everything.
maybe even Jon Snow to an extent, and these poor people living in these slummy conditions. So this Koch you keep going on about.
Yes, Koch, Robert Koch, just to clarify, Robert Koch. He discovered and identified the germs. He saw the germs and really put names on them.
So Louis Pasteur said there's germs everywhere.
Yes.
Sort of proved it a little bit with some of his experiments, but that's not really helpful, is it?
Yeah, no one's believing that. Whereas Koch, he's just completely.
So his thing is just you've just said the word, but Robert Koch identified germs.
He does.
Which I think is probably more important, isn't it, than Louis Pasteur's just saying that there are germs.
I think there might be, yeah.
Louis Pasteur's not helping us do anything with all these germs. So are you saying like some of these big killers like cholera, things like that,
Yeah.
Robert Koch is going to try and identify
He identifies
the individual germs?
Yes, he does. He can now differentiate them. And with differentiating them, you can take that into...
Well, the potential for that is off the scale, isn't it?
100%.
All right, go on.
So he identified cholera. And he also, another thing that he invented the jelly that goes in the Petri dishes.
Okay. The agar jelly?
Yes, the agar jelly, which really proves them. It really makes it easier to see them.
So he puts his dyes in there as well. Dyes. So that really shows these germs. So I guess he's got like loads of cholera victims and he's looking for a common...
Yeah. So what he done was he took samples and then identified the germs. And he identified cholera in each and every one. And then he'd know, oh, cholera looks like this. And then he'd get other patients with other illnesses.
Is there a bit of technology he's invented to help with this too?
Yes, there was.
What's he invented? The microscope or something?
Yeah, it was the microscope.
This guy's pretty important then, isn't he? Not only as an individual, but his own technology as well, which allows him, I guess, to see these bacteria, these germs.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm feeling quite excited about this. This is really the potential of this bit now. So if they get this bit right, if he can, I guess, explain what he's doing here,
yeah,
you could have vaccines for every possible illness ever.
Yeah.
And explain what Jenner couldn't.
Yeah. And really explaining what Jenner couldn't just puts a seal on the idea of vaccines and Well, I think it should wash out all the anti-vaxxers, but we know that hasn't happened.
Yeah, and I suppose the problem with Jenner there is it's a great story, but he couldn't explain it.
Yeah.
Now these guys can.
Cock.
So what does he go on to do? How does he prove what Jenner couldn't? What is it he does? So he's identified them with colours. I suppose he's got to do some experiments, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So is this where Louis packs up? Louis is fuming by this, so he then does his own experiments with the chicken or some chickens.
It was with the chicken. So what he done was he injected an illness that was killing all the chickens, and injected that into one person, into a chicken, not a person. Injected it into a chicken, but in a small amount, and then injected another one into a chicken in a large amount.
So the problem here, if I remember correctly, is that he injected this cholera, this chicken cholera, into a chicken, and he expected the chicken to die.
Yeah.
But it didn't, and he was a bit like, "Oh man, what is going on here?" Because he's French, obviously.
Just like that, yeah.
Just like that. And again, like Jenna and everyone else you're talking about in this episode, just one little bit of sort of individual genius, just a moment. He could have, any of the rest of us might have thrown it away and thought, oh, my theory is over, that's rubbish, it didn't work. But actually, what Louis Pasteur's done there is he sort of thought, hang on a minute, maybe there was something wrong with that chicken cholera that he injected in the chicken.
Yes.
So he got a brand new fresh bit, gave it to a new chicken, and the chicken died.
Yes, it did.
But now we have this idea of the cowpox from earlier.
Yeah.
So Louis Pasteur is going to say, that chicken that we just did it before and they didn't die, I wonder if somehow that
had been
weakened.
Yes.
So they get that chicken back and they put full-blown chicken cholera into it.
Yes.
And it survives.
Yeah, it survives.
And they proved it's strong enough because it just killed the other chicken.
Yeah.
So now what we're saying there is that's what Jenner got to.
Yeah.
So what's the difference now? What can they now explain that Jenner couldn't?
See, with the new germ theory, which Pasteur came up with, they can explain what they've done. Whereas Jenner, without the germ theory, couldn't really explain anything. But with Pasteur and his experiment, he can explain that this chicken cholera that he injected into the first chicken that didn't die, something had weakened it and has to have been the germs.
Ah, that's it. That's the moment right there, isn't it? The germs weakened it because of what? They left it out by accident?
Yeah, they left it out.
Wow. Okay, and then Robert Koch picks this up because he can go, okay, I'm going to now identify the chicken cholera.
Yes.
And every other disease going forward. This is pretty important, isn't it?
It's just back to front, isn't it? It's a tennis match.
This is literally more important than anything you've talked about in this episode.
I think so.
If we think that preventions are more important, if we think a vaccine's more important,
I think that's a different
than
episode,
a treatment. That's a different episode, a different
so.
argument altogether. So one more experiment then. Sheep. Let's do something with sheep.
So he had 50 sheep. Altogether 50 sheep, yeah? Injected 25 for weakened anthrax. And then after a few days, let them, deal with that.
Recover.
Let them recover. Then injected all 50, which he already had originally. Obviously the 25 with the weakened one. He then injected all of them, including that 25, with the full-blown sheep anthrax. And his thesis, he expected 25 of them to die. But the other 25 that he injected with the weakened one, he expected them to survive.
And
they did.
Wow. So they've done what Jenner couldn't.
Yeah,
between them, Pasteur and Koch, between them, have proven there's germs everywhere.
Yes.
Germs weaken things. So in this case, weaken the bacteria that Koch is able to identify using his jelly dyes and microscope.
Yes.
And I suppose anything in the world now, COVID, probably using the same methods of Robert Koch.
I think so, yeah.
I've got a vaccine for anything.
Exactly. Anything in the world you can think of.
Jenner would be pleased, wouldn't he, if he was
really
around?
would.
Wow. I think that's pretty important. I have got no idea how we're going to top this in the modern period. This could link to Lister, couldn't it?
That could.
So shall we do Lister?
Yes.
All right, so Lister's going to be in surgery, but he read this idea of Louis Pasteur's germ theory and thought that could have an effect in surgery.
Yes.
And that could go some way to solving the black period of surgery.
Yes.
All right, Joseph Lister then.
So, Joseph Lister, he is really important. As most of these individuals are, he is super important because at the time when Lister's discoveries were made and everything like that, everything that he thought of, at that time, even if a patient who had just had a surgery survived because of a quick operation, they would almost certainly get an infection and just die anyway. There was a 50%, simple breaks would lead to a 50% chance of death.
Wow.
Which is crazy to think about because if you consider in the modern period that we are now, a simple break and you'll be out of hospital.
Yeah, no one's dying, are they, at all? So this issue there, when they solved the anaesthetic that we talked about earlier in this episode, they solved pain, so they could do this complex stuff, but more and more people died than ever because they were unconscious for longer with these germs that now Lister's read Louis Pasteur's work. So why did people get germs before? Like, what were the conditions that people having surgery in before? And now what does Lister bring that sort of helped all that?
Well, before it was just dirty everywhere. Like tools were left out, and obviously we know germs now fall from the sky. So if your tools are left out, you're just gonna get covered in germs and infected.
And those bodies that are lying there unconscious
Yeah.
for hours just falling into them.
Yeah.
So what did Lister bring to the game? What was his like discovery or his invention or whatever it was? What did he do that solved that?
So basically, he noticed people were putting carbolic acid in like bins and drains to stop it from smelling, and he thought, well, if that's stopping that from smelling, maybe something else can happen with this. So he took that idea and he started thinking. He thought and he experimented with a lot of chemicals that really shows determination. And then carbolic acid, obviously, he knew that worked with something. So what he did was he poured carbolic acid down a drain that he had near him, and he realized it killed all the microbes, which were identified, and like the theory of Pasteur.
So
showed
we're
that.
bringing back to Pasteur again. And
Yeah.
I think there's been a theme in this industrial period, isn't there?
Yeah.
That it keeps coming back to Louis Pasteur. So Lister's read it, liked it, and put the thing together.
Yeah.
Oh, this bin thing might be something to do with that. So this carbolic acid kills germs.
Yeah.
So germs are the thing that caused the smell, because that's kind of what rotting was.
Yeah.
You mentioned there that as well that spontaneous generation was the idea that germs just appeared,
Yeah.
whereas it's not, is it? So it's the
No.
germs that cause the smell and the rotting.
Mhm.
And he's just thought, let's try that in a bin, and it worked. And then he's done that. How's he brought that to surgery?
So the first time he ever used it and successfully used it was on this young lad who had been hit by a car.
Car,
Yeah, a car.
horse and cart.
Same thing.
Totally.
He carefully mopped up the wound. So he like cleaned it, stuff like that. And he used carbolic acid to do that. So he was just using carbolic acid to clean it because he knew it killed germs.
And so he
would
wrapped the
clean it.
bandages in this kid who's
And he
broke his
wrapped
leg.
it in a carbolic dressing it was, put a splint on him, and he left him for 4 days before taking it off. Every day he'd go see him, obviously, make sure it was okay.
Did you
4
change the
days.
dressing every day with it,
Yeah,
carbolic
Yeah,
acid?
changed the dressing every day. Then after 6 more weeks, the kid walked out the hospital, good as new, which in that period is absolutely massive, given most people would die from simple.
Especially being a
leg like that.
kid who's like probably minging and
Yeah.
not washed properly and all the rest of it. Not that they did wash properly anyway there. So, okay, so the experiment was this boy and success.
Yeah.
So now what happens? How does he get this carbolic acid into surgery when operations are happening?
So he thought it was to kill all like germs and stuff. And obviously we know that was true and he was right about that. So what he done was he invented something called the carbolic spray. And in like surgeries and stuff like that, he would spray it and it would, like his idea was it would sterilize
So
all the
all
germs.
over the body, the patient.
Yeah, all over the
Oh.
body, and like the tools and everything would all be sprayed in this carbolic acid.
All right. Were there any sort of downsides of that? Quite messy, I'd imagine, wasn't it? And slippy?
Quite messy, and sometimes it can mess with like the surgeons and their tools. It can make them quite slippy as well on their
Yeah.
fingers.
It's not good, is it? You're in there with a scalpel.
Yeah.
So we're now doing this really complex surgery, taking all the time in the world because of the anesthetics, and then you just slip with your slippy. So
Yeah.
can they see what they're doing? Is it easy to see inside the body with all this froth, I guess, everywhere?
It can cloud and like make it a little bit more difficult to see the carbolic spray, but
But you're not dying.
you're not dying. I'd take that.
All right. So how did the surgeons feel? Did they buy into this idea? Did they love Lister's idea, or did they moan about stuff? Oh, someone's always moaning in this medicine course,
Yeah,
aren't
of
they?
course. See, a lot of people still believed in miasma when this came about. So it was a little bit, he kind of pushed it and kind of like tried, but a lot of people wouldn't accept it and a lot of people wouldn't like take it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so there's like, I think Semmelweis was the same, wasn't he? Telling everyone to wash their hands, and they were like, no, that's rubbish. So we use a thing, or I try to say to help you remember this Lister guy, Lister Blister.
Yeah, Lister Blister.
So what was that about? Why do we think about blisters when we think of Lister? So the surgeon's hands all the day, they're using this stuff all day long. What started to happen?
Started getting like blisters on their hands, and then because obviously you're in a body, like multiple bodies a day, with a load of carbolic spray going on, it can be quite bad on the hands.
So it's not too bad for the patients because they're only getting it once.
Yeah, but the doctors and the surgeons.
Exactly. All right. So we've found the cure for the black period of surgery.
Yeah.
Is Lister more important than other people in terms of his impact in wider society? Because really what I'm thinking we're getting at here is Lister's work was good if you're in surgery.
Yeah.
Florence Nightingale's was kind of good if you were in hospital. Jon Snow was all right if you're in Soho. And it's obviously changing attitude. So I know we're going to do an episode later on who's the most important, but what would be the sort of strengths and weaknesses of Lister before we move on to this modern period in terms of his impact and where he fits in the scale?
Well, I think he he's pretty high up there on the scale because he's really changed everything. He's changed the rate of death like drastically, and I think his most like biggest advantage to what he's done was he's going to be most important because if there's no one there to do surgery on, because they're all dying from infection, then
so he's changing attitudes of surgeons, and surgeons now know it's their duty, it's their responsibility to not kill someone or to keep him alive. And obviously, if we're going to give him credit, we'll give him credit in terms of he acted on sort of intuition, common sense, sensibleness, did his experiment with that little boy. But also, if it wasn't for Louis Pasteur, then maybe Lister wouldn't have even thought that. So again, we keep coming back to Louis Pasteur, don't we?
He's pretty important.
Because Lister hasn't really particularly done anything about identifying germs. So Robert Koch's probably not that important. What we see is carbolic acid just kills germs. Probably luckily for Lister, all germs, I guess, it seems. But then again, there were some people who died of infection still. So maybe there were some bacteria that later on we now know they got through, the carbolic acid didn't kill them. But in the main, death rates plummeted.
And that's the most important part, I think.
And now as we go into this 20th century, the 1900s, more people are quite willing to have surgery now. So we've got rid of this idea of butchers and all the rest of it. So surgery in its whole was really good. So with Simpson and Lister. But as these individuals, I'm quite looking forward to that episode of where we're going to decide who the most important individual is. And I think that's going to be like a war because they're clearly all important. But I think we've nailed that definitely right there. So who next then on this journey?
Let's go to Alexander Fleming.
Oh, so we're going to jump into the 20th century.
Straight into the 20th
The modern period. All right. Alexander Fleming, another great Scot.
Of course.
I mean, I'm happy to say that being a Scot myself, but he's a bit of a snake, this guy. I'm not a big fan. I think he's slimy.
So he discovered penicillin, changed everything. He saved 15% of the lives of soldiers during World War II, which is massive given World War II was a big war. Like a lot was going on in that, and he saved 15% of them.
You're saying he's done this, his credit, this penicillin thing. Like, what is it? How did he discover it?
So penicillin, it doesn't cure illnesses, but it stops infections.
Okay.
It's like an antibiotic, meaning.
No, so it is an antibiotic.
Yeah, it's an antibiotic.
So what's this, like a treatment or something?
Yeah.
Is this like the first treatment in the whole medicine course? I think
it's one of them. Yeah.
All right. So far we've got some crazy stuff like bleeding, praying, purging, 4 humours. This is the first one that we think works. So an antibiotic, this penicillin thing stops infections. What is it? What does it do?
It kills the bacteria. And that's it. Doesn't kill anything else in the body, just the bacteria.
So it doesn't kill the cells or anything?
No, just the bacteria.
So of all these years up until now, we've been using things like mercury? And that kills the bacteria, but also kills the cells?
Yeah, but penicillin just kills the bacteria, which is so huge because now you can use a treatment without having drastic side effects. There'll still be some side effects, obviously, everything has that, but you're not losing cells.
Or dying.
Yeah, exactly.
So people, before this penicillin, they would have maybe pricked the finger on a thorn bush doing the gardening. And died, probably of an infection. So even if now someone does get an infection, chances are you go to the doctor, they give you penicillin, job's done.
Yes.
So that sounds like one of those magic bullets. So that, they only attacks the cells, the bacteria, not the body. So he's obviously had a bit of help with those early magic bullets. Fleming's done this. So how did he discover it? How did you find this like ultimate magic bullet, this super duper life-changing treatment?
So this is pretty lucky part of Fleming's story, but he went on holiday and he left a petri dish out, just left it out. And because further down in the little lab complex
in the university,
further down, some people working on fungi, and that fungi flew out of their window into his and then onto the petri dish that he'd left out while he went on holiday.
That is luck.
That is.
They sound like some fun guys. So this mold sorry everybody. This mold flew in, landed on this dish, and when he comes back, he finds this petri dish with this green fluff on it that if we saw it today in our bedrooms or in dishes or in bread or something or food, you'd be like, ugh, get rid of this.
Chuck it out.
Fleming, you say lucky, but Fleming didn't chuck it out. What did Fleming think?
So he thought, and he looked at it, and then he thought a little bit more, and he looked at it again, and saw that around where the fungi had landed and around where that had landed on his petri dish, no bacteria, it all died.
This green fluffy stuff.
Killed it.
So he thought it must have killed it.
Yeah.
So the rest of the dish, there was loads of germs and bacteria still, but not around this green mold.
Yeah.
So the mold is something in the mold. So Fleming thought to himself, this could be useful in medicine.
Yeah.
So what does he do next?
So he does some research. He does some research, this and that, but he ends up dropping it.
He just drops it.
Just drops it.
What, he can't explain it or something?
Can't explain it, drops it.
So he thinks something like, I guess, that he can't imagine how this thing can survive outside the body for
Yeah.
very long, so it can't possibly
Yeah,
work. So he dropped
drops
it.
it.
1929, just drops it.
Just
Found this incredible thing. He's got this world-changing, life-saving thing in his hand, and he just does a bit of research, decides he can't do it, and then drops it.
just gives up.
And this is where I think he gets a bit of that snakiness from. So, all right, so 1929, 10 years are going to pass now.
Yeah.
We're going to get to World War II, 1939. And I think you're going to introduce to me the real heroes of the penicillin story.
I think I am.
Okay.
Chain and Fleury. So they found this. They picked it back up.
So they were interested in his research that he did.
Interested, looked at it, picked it back up, decided they were just going to mass produce it. Just going to mass produce it in America. And at that time, that was so important because when Fleming first discovered this and first started using it, he had to go around to the patients he used it on and collect it from their urine because of how special it was.
I think what Chain and Fleury started to do it first, wasn't it? Don't forget, Fleming's out of the story now because he bailed on it 10 years ago. To rush against time here, because Hitler and the Nazis are also close to getting this wonderful thing. And if they get it, then potentially they could use chemical warfare and all of the German soldiers would be fine because they've got this penicillin thing. So they're doing these tests. They've done a few bits on mice, haven't they? You're saying that they go and got it from people's urine?
Yeah, they went around and got it from people's urine because of how valuable it was at the start.
So they give it to a patient, then they collect his urine to try and get a bit more out, and they extract a little bit. And each time they do that, they get a bit less.
Yeah, yeah.
Ah, so there's a guy, what's he, a police officer, I think. They were doing a little bit of a test on him, weren't they? And he improved, but also, well, then he died because they ran out of penicillin.
Yeah.
Oh, sad times. They did a test on a boy as well, a young lad. It's always a young lad, isn't it? But then, to be fair, maybe they're healthier and so they're a good test. But he had a really bad infection, didn't he? And they gave him this penicillin, and because he was a young boy, they didn't need as much, so they had plenty, and he was cured, bouncing around the ward, happy as Larry, and then died. And everyone was like, "Oh!" And then just looking into it a little bit, he was so sick before the penicillin trial that his organs and his heart weren't very good anyway. So the fact that this penicillin cured him, he then had a new lease of life, and he was playing with his toys, running around. And the heart that was already damaged, then obviously that gave in.
Yeah.
So we've got a win. The penicillin cured the boy because in his autopsy there was no infection anymore. It was a heart attack. So now we've got this big thing. You already kind of mentioned it a little bit, but this idea of these two, Chain and Fleury, are going to try and mass produce this thing. Now they've done the tests. They proved it works. The British government have said, sorry, we're busy fighting Hitler. We can't pay for this. So what next?
So they take it to the American government and they get it mass produced, which is crazy given, if you think about it, it was so valuable. They're extracting it from pea and now they're mass producing it in America.
So the difference there in trying to mass produce it is this penicillin is like alive. It's organic. It's mold. Whereas the first two magic bullets, they can be made in a lab. Yeah. We can later on, but for now, this thing needs to be extracted. And that's why it's so difficult. And they did loads of these Chain and Fleury. They had bathtubs full of water, didn't they, where they were sort of letting it go mouldy and skimming off the mold off the top, and they even put some under their armpits of their jackets in case the Nazis invaded, all that stuff. So it's really hard to make it and then mass produce it. But the Americans have found a way. I believe Pfizer, the company that did some of the COVID jabs, they're the ones who did that. And then, as you said earlier, it was used in the beaches of Normandy, D-Day landings, saving thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of lives by using it on the beaches. And then after that, everyone knows it works. And this has become the ultimate treatment now. No matter what happens, for any infection, you go to your doctors and they give you penicillin.
Literally anything. Go penicillin.
So 10% of us are allergic to penicillin. But we'll have something else, like amoxicillin or something. But ultimately, for the first time in this whole course, we've now got a treatment that works. That doesn't cause more damage.
It's a breakthrough.
So Snaky Fleming, why is he snaky in this?
Because then he takes that idea back and goes, well, this was my idea. And he takes all the credit.
10 years later, he comes back and he asks Chain and Fleury, maybe this is a bit of a myth, but there's sort of a suggestion that he asks Chain and Fleury for just a little bit. He says his friend is sick.
Yeah.
And he goes to the press and says, look what I've made. That's where he's snaky. And of course, he then wins a Nobel Peace Prize for that.
Yeah, he does. Gets his name on statues, stuff like that.
And interestingly, though, you could say he did discover it. He could have thrown that dish away when he got back off holiday, couldn't he? He could have left it, but he didn't. He showed that it was possible. He wrote a little bit of a paper. But the good news is Chain and Fleury, they also get the
they get their
Nobel Peace Prize as well a bit later on.
Yes.
All right, so that's a really important breakthrough. I would say so far, really, probably in the whole story, the most significant, unless you're looking at preventions, which would be Jenner's vaccines, as the best, most important thing, because if you stop people getting sick in the first place, but of course, people still get sick.
Yeah.
So to find the treatment now,
this is
probably is only for bacteria though, isn't it? Bacterial infections.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of stuff still in this modern period that we haven't dealt with.
Yeah.
All right. So Fleming, Chain and Flory, big tick.
Yes.
All right. In this modern period. All right. So Alex, we've come to an end of a journey here, haven't we? From the ancient world, right through the Middle Ages, Industrial period, Renaissance period before that.
It's been a
loads of
ride.
individuals there. Vesalius, what a ledge.
Yes.
In the Industrial period is full of individuals as well. Modern period, probably a little bit less individuals, but they're working on and building on the work of previous individuals. Obviously, DNA is an important breakthrough in this, understanding different causes of illness, lifestyle choices, and government plays a huge part. But this episode is a whistle stop of the individuals. So in future episodes, maybe with yourself or maybe some of your peers in school, we could do episodes on the other factors. I really do think an episode on government would be good to come against this one.
Yeah.
I believe personally that government, especially in the modern period, has played an almighty part in people living longer. Possibly more than individuals. But really good. Stick with that. Stick with your gut. I think it's clear to see, and what you've said in this episode, that the period where individuals have played the biggest role is Renaissance and Industrial, right? In modern period, clearly there's a few less individuals in there. People have done a few bits. Crick and Watson discovered DNA, but it's more science, that isn't it?
Yeah, that's more technology and everything.
So here we are in 2025 at the time of recording this, soon to be 2026 in a few weeks.
Yes.
Medicine has never been better, but we are about to embark on a technological advance. Some of the things we know we can do in surgery now with the keyhole surgery and robotics, God, the potential is unreal. But all of that, just to end this episode, is basically built on the hard work of previous people. So Simpson and anesthetics, Lister, surgery, even Florence Nightingale to an extent.
All the way back to Vesalius as well, you know, discovering
Well, we
things.
keep bringing Vesalius into this, doesn't he? But I'll tell you, Vesalius did not save lives, but he did tell us where bits were.
A different episode, that one.
That is the Who's the Best Individual coming soon, folks. All right, Alex, thank you very much. Hopefully you guys enjoyed listening to this and it was helpful and will be helpful if you listen to this towards your exams. Hopefully as well, the rest of season 2, you'll see a few more topics that are exam board related for our revision. But of course, ModsPod is open to any of your interests. So just let me know what you want to do and we'll get cracking on that. Thank you so much. And I look forward to the next one, part 2 of your journey into Vesalius, probably.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, we'll see. Coming soon, folks. Thank you very much and goodbye.